and welcome to another episode of Rights for Women. Something a little different today. This episode is a Convo Couch chat with three emerging authors, Holly Craig, Valerie Miller and Alicia Thompson. All three are authors I've come across on Instagram, loved what they've posted and followed them. So when it came time to compile the first panel chat for Rights for Women, I decided to invite all three on at once. So this is a little bit of an experiment on the podcast. Let us know what you think when you hear or watch. But I'm really excited to be able to introduce you to these authors if you don't know who they are already, and just to find out a little bit more about how they're handling and approaching their lives as authors and being published, basically. So a little bit of info about each one. Holly Craig is a writer, English teacher and primary teacher. She has a fabulous blog where she writes about writing and invites others to share their experiences in order to inspire, lift, mentor and motivate each other to reach that seemingly impossible target. Holly thinks of it as an online diary that other people get to snoop into. There are some really fabulous articles there and I highly recommend that you check them out. All the links to all authors' websites and socials will be in the show notes too for the episode. Valerie Miller lives in Brisbane with her husband and daughter. In October 2021, Valerie completed her Master of Letters in Creative Writing at Central Queensland University. She has a number of writing projects on the go, including a romantic, historical, magical realism novella about belonging, love and self-discovery, a novel and a short story anthology, all to be published under her indie author imprint, Yellow Shutter Books. And my third guest is Alicia Thompson. Alicia grew up in Wollombi in a beautiful part of New South Wales, and after travelling the world in her 20s, she returned to Australia, consulting, teaching and promoting her writing work through her company eFolio. She developed her writing skills through a program of reading and short courses which culminated in a Masters of Creative Writing at the University of Technology in Sydney. Her debut novel, Something Else, was published by Nine Star Press in October 2021. So, Valerie, Holly and Alicia, welcome to Rights for Women.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for being here. It's so exciting.
Now, some people are going to be listening to this podcast, on audio, so they're not going to be able to see you, although, they'll be able to see everyone's photos on socials, but others will be watching us on video on YouTube. So after a couple of questions, I think everyone will get the hang of who, to identify everybody's voices. But just so that we can make sure that everybody is, we know who everybody is, I'm going to address the questions to you one at a time. And then, I'm sure the conversation will go off on a few tangents as we roll along, as it happens on Rights for Women. So can we start, first of all, with your paths to publication? How did you get to be where you are now in terms of your writing, basically? Valerie, can we start with you?
Sure. Look, I've been dabbling as a writer all my life. I actually come from an Italian background, so English is my second language, and so books helped me to master the English language. So once I discovered reading, I then discovered writing. I've always written. But it wasn't until I moved to Brisbane just before I turned 50 that I decided that if I don't do something about it, I'm just always going to be wondering about it. So I think I just made the leap to make the decision to get my stories out into the wild. And that's what I did. So I completed a creative writing workshop with the Australian Writers Centre, and then started writing my first novel for NaNoWriMo in 2018, which I always knew was going to be a practice one. And it was doing some research with trying to find out what you would call someone who studies letters, like writing letters. And there is no such thing, as I found out. But I came across this Master of Letters in Creative Writing with Central Queensland University. So I enrolled in that. And that was probably the one thing that really got me going, because I think working at a tertiary level in your writing and having to share your work with your colleagues or your peers gave me the confidence to just take my work and put it out there, and to receive criticisms and feedback, and to build resilience. And I think that's the one thing that's been the most biggest thing for me is developing a strong resilience and knowing that not everyone's going to write like my work, but the fact is, if you don't get it out there, it's never going to get out there. So that's where I'm at the moment. And then I was always thinking about trade publishing, but just recently, about early last year, after listening to Joanna Penn talk, because she's like the queen of self-publishing, I just decided, I just decided that self-publishing just seems to suit the type of person I am, because I like to be in control, and I like to have that creative control. And so I just developed a business model with my accountant, and I've actually changed my company's name because we had to register. So I'm now actually officially a business. So I'm now no longer Am Yellow Shutter Books, because we had to re-register. So I'm now Blushing Daisy Books.
I love that.
So Blushing Daisy Books. So so that's what I've decided to do. So I've decided to go down the indie route and to create it like a business. So it's invested. I won't be making any money for a while, but eventually, hopefully, I'll break even and then hopefully pull in a profit. So
that's fantastic, and great to like really treat it like a business too. Really smart. Nice blend of that creative and business brain. Sounds fantastic.
Loving the marketing too. So
well, that's great. You're doing the right thing then if you love the marketing. How about you, Alicia? What's been your path to publication?
Well, listening to Valerie, I'll start even earlier than I was planning to. I used to do fan fiction with my girlfriend when we were about 7 years old, writing our own Trixie Beldens. Way before fan fiction even existed. God knows what my girlfriend and I would have done with an internet. We would have gone crazy. So I've always written because I love reading, and the seminal moment for me was doing a CE education, that's continuing education with Sydney Uni, a course with the writer Catherine Hayman. You probably know her. She's brought Fury out recently. She's
fantastic.
She's a great teacher. And the exercises she gave us were just so inspiring, and she literally kicked my novel off the page. And I went home and thought, I can do this. I can start at chapter 1 and I can start writing. That's how good she was. And I had some novel ideas brewing, and I literally just sat down and wrote the whole thing out, and did a lot of plotting on spreadsheets and things, because I'm that sort of analytical person. And I've gone through about 5 drafts, and it got a bit bogged down. And in a period of unemployment, I just thought, I've got this other idea. I'm just going to write that instead. And something else just vomited out in 3 months. And I thought, okay. Had 55,000 words. So I sent it off to Nicola O'Shea, who's she's ex-Hachette. She does manuscript assessments. And she gave me some great feedback. I did some of it, and I wasn't prepared for doing the rest of it. And I just started working again, because work just gets in the way. And I've got a mathematical sort of career, and I find it's the exact opposite of what I need for creating. And it really takes me out of it. So in another period of unemployment, or between contracts with COVID, I just thought, like Valerie, if I don't do it now, when will I do this? So I've taken 2 years off work, which is significant at my age. And I just thought, I've got to give it a go. So I fixed it up. I sent it off to some mainstream publishers. Apparently LGBT stuff's in demand at the moment, but nobody seemed interested. I didn't even get acknowledgements. And then I thought, well, maybe I need to be a bit more targeted here. And I thought, maybe I just need to focus on some LGBT publishers. And then I started getting the responses. And got an offer. And that was February last year. And Nine Star Press took me on the journey. And we released it in October. And I'm sort of a hybrid between Holly and Valerie, I think, listening to their stories, because I've got a publisher, but they're niche and very small. So they did some of the hard work for me in terms of typesetting, cover, editing, ISBN, ebook distribution, that kind of thing, and Ingram Spark. But in terms of everything else, it's all on me. And my goodness, I don't know when I'm going to write book 2. I really don't.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's very time consuming.
Yeah, I'm doing all this work so I can get a mainstream publisher for this book I can't write.
Yeah, I know. It's hard, isn't it? It's getting that balance. But we're going to come back to that sort of thing in our discussion. How about you, Holly? You've got a bit of a different story.
Yeah, so I a bit like Valerie, have just been writing my whole life since I was a little girl. And even through my teens and 20s, I would be up until 11 or 12 at night writing. My flatmates used to tease me for it because I wouldn't be out partying. I'd want to be there actually typing away at stories. And then I went to uni and I studied journalism and public relations, and then part of that was choosing electives, which I went and did a creative writing course at Curtin University. And it wasn't until I kind of went there and learnt the tools and techniques that I then thought, okay, now I can do this for real. And I was working on a historical fiction novel for about 7 years with my uni supervisor, but also alone before that. And I tested out, you know, the Australian agencies, and when I was submitting to them, and I had a few that were kind of interested and actually phoned me up about it, but it never went anywhere. And then it wasn't until 2019 that I thought I'll just try something different. So I wrote a psychological thriller and I set it in the UK, and I strategically thought about where I wanted to go with my writing career. And I thought, well, I want to go big. So I thought I'll go to the UK or the US and I'll try the agents there. And then while I was submitting in the UK, I saw that the Curtis Brown Creative Curtis Brown, the agency over in the UK, they run a course called Curtis Brown Creative that it's run by agents there. And I only had 24 hours to apply, and I just quickly did it. I saw it on there and I thought, I'll quickly do it. This is my chance, because at the end of that course, the agents actually consider your manuscripts. And so luckily I got in, and that was out of about a few hundred people apply for that course. You've just got to submit your synopsis and first 3 chapters. And I knew that my manuscript was developed enough because I'd been working with Louise Allen, and she had been editing it professionally with me. And I just knew that if I did this while I was out there on submissions with the UK agents, hopefully then a UK agent would acknowledge that Curtis Brown was like a reputable writing course, a bit like Faber Academy.
Yeah.
And it actually worked. So I had about 15 full manuscript requests, and then Darlie Anderson requested the full. And then I just was saying to these agents, I just want to let you know that at the end, like in a few weeks, that the agents of Curtis Brown will be considering me. And then Darlie Anderson, Jade, my agent from Darlie Anderson, ended up representing me or offering representation. And then I had a few agents of Curtis Brown. They were passing my manuscript around as well. And I went with them. So it was just the best thing ever, because they're such a great agent, Darlie Anderson. Like, they represent massive authors like Lee Child and Martina Cole and K.L. Slater. And then, but the thing was, with The Hidden, which was the psychological thriller novel that got me Darlie Anderson, they could never find a publisher for it, which was really disheartening. And so I just thought, what am I going to do? Because I thought that once you have an agent, now you get published. And so I just wrote and wrote and wrote last year, just so much. I wrote 3 different novels. I wrote The Shallows, the one that's being published in 8 weeks. And that was the one, like, got picked up after being at Frankfurt Book Fair. So yeah, it's ended up really good, like a good ending.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So who's that been? So that leads beautifully into my next question so we'll start with you, Holly, and go back around.
Yeah.
So where are you at currently with your writing and publishing? So
The Shallows is going to be published by Thomas and Mercer. They're the crime imprint for Amazon Publishing. And that's going to be out, published in June 2023. And then following on from that, because I got a 2-book deal, so The Rip, the next one, will be out in 2024. So in May this year is when we start our edits on The Shallows. And in the meantime, I'm just finishing off The Rip and trying to get that done. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. That's very exciting.
It is really exciting.
Yeah.
I still can't really believe it, actually.
Well done.
And I think when I first contacted you, that was sort of still in the making, wasn't it? That whole thing. So
yeah,
it's all happened.
So I finally signed with them. Just signed with them. So it's all going through, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's just, I'm loving hearing like, you know, the different journeys. But what I'm really hearing from all of you is just the determination and, you know, that this is what you want and you're going for it. So well done on, you know, to all of you on that level. It's fantastic. So Alicia, you know, you said you are very caught up at the moment in doing the marketing and everything for something else. How are you then combining that with, you know, you said you're working on or wanting to work on your next novel?
It's difficult because when you print on demand, you've got to organise relationships with every individual distributor, and there's just no way you can do that. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later. I thought, gee, this other book I'm writing's bogged down. I'm going to write something else. And like Holly, I thought, oh, I've got this London idea, and I wrote a crime novel. And I wrote that in 2 months when you were inspiring everyone to do NaNoWriMo.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And good.
I'm glad somebody wrote something during NaNoWriMo, because I did.
I managed to churn out about 60,000 words in 2 months. And but then I had a conversation with another writer, Tia Cooper, and we were talking about her books and about the fact that she sets herself aside by, she started with romance, but then she moved to ecological sort of historical novels.
Yeah.
And the reason I had coffee with her is because she's a Wollongong girl too. And she lives there. And so we met locally. And Pauline Bevan's another one who's local as well. Anyway, she said to me, look, there's so many crime novels, there's so many romance novels, you've got to have a point of difference. And I sat there and I thought, okay, I've written this London crime novel, and my first novel is setting itself aside by being Australian dialogue, strong idiom, really strong rural flavour. And then I run away and do a London crime novel. That's just not going to help me commercially. You know, I've got to be sensible here.
Yeah.
So I put it aside and thought, oh, God, back to the 14-year-old effort. I'm just going to chug away and get something done. And I think I'm just going to pay the money and throw it at Nicola and just say, please, please help me.
Is this with the one that you had written previously?
Oh, it's in 5th draft, and I've worked a lot, I've researched a lot, a little bit like Holly, but possibly not as doing the quality. I did it with my masters with Deborah Adelaide as well. So there's a lot of work in there, but I think there's a lot of maturity needed in it. I'm not writing it as well as it needs and deserves to be written. So that's why I keep putting it aside, because in my mind it's Neuschwanstein Castle, and when I look at it, it's a slab hut, you know. So but yes, that's my ambition. That is my ambition, to get that out.
Okay, fantastic. And you know what? You're going to take back the experience that you've had in the meantime back to that, you know, the next draft of that. So yeah, for sure.
They say nothing's wasted.
Absolutely, definitely not. How about you, Valerie? Where are you at currently? What's happening for you?
So because I decided to, so I've been writing this novel. I wrote the first novel. It was my practice novel, all 134,000 words practice. I only took the character and the title from that. Started writing the novel back in October last year, but had to stop and start because of my dissertation, because I did my dissertation last year. And so early last year, I've decided, yep, I'm going to self-publish, but I wanted to be able to find something to hang that on to sort of learn the process. And I thought, I didn't want to do it with my novel. And I thought, okay, I had written about 17, 18 short stories. Some of them had been picked up. Some of them had been sent off to competitions. So I thought, no, I'm going to do a short story anthology. I love short stories. I actually went to Fiona Robinson's launch for her book. I'm going to do.
I've been hearing about this book. Yeah.
For that. So for
if
her,
you're happy.
And if you're happy. And so I was really pleased that a Brisbane girl, did that as well. But so that's what I've been doing. So that's probably going to be launched in March next month. So I've just got the proofs back from the editor. And at the moment, I'm just self-editing the standalone novel. At the moment, the title is There's Something About You, Olivia Bennett, but everybody keeps saying it's too long, but I'm stubborn. I love that title. And
there's a lot of long titles around.
Yeah. I know. And I've done the character thing. It's still a bit long, but I thought, no, I'm going to stick to my guns because I'm very, very stubborn, and I'm very much a square peg in a round hole, and I just do what I want, and I just don't follow conventions at all. And I spoke to so I've got 4 editors now because I've been working with 4 different editors. And Rachel in Canada I told her when she picks up does the developmental edit, I've told her, please, I really want to try and keep this novel, see if we can make it work. It does, the line does occur at a very poignant point in the novel, so it does work, I hope. So that's going to her. So that's a standalone. And out of my dissertation came out a novella, which is the magical realism piece.
Oh, great.
That's my dissertation. I actually did really well with that dissertation. I actually got pretty great marks with that. I'm really
good on you.
Pretty, like in the 90s. Sort of. I'm really impressed with that. Like I really didn't think I'd get through over the line. But so that's at 21,000 words. But I'm going to bring it to 40,000 words and bring in a second point of view, because it's an epistolic novel. So I don't know if you know what that is, because I love epistolic novels. They're novels written by narratives built by letters or diaries.
That's right. Yes. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah.
I love them. I love them. I've actually started some content marketing. I'm actually going to create one called Marcella is Marvelous. It's going to be some content marketing to try and get people to my website. And I'm going to give away the story step by step. I'm going to take on the persona of Marcella and write a diary as her. So that started last night.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because I've thought with marketing, for me, content marketing is my strongest skill. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And I've also drafting my first book in a romance series. That's I've actually nabbed the editor for Virgin River. So she's my editor. And so she's edited some work for me. So I've tested her and we get on really well. Her name's Valerie as well. And so I'm actually writing my first book of a 9-book series set in Tasmania. And that's another thing. I have this affinity for Australian women writers, and I just want to put Australia on the romance map, because there's so much stuff is American. No offense to American and their stories, I love them, but I just think we need more stories that are beyond just rural romance. And just we've got so much of this country. We've got ethnic people, we've got Aboriginal people, we've got women, we've got men, we've got LBQT. I can never remember it.
LGBTQ.
We've got that wonderful community, and so it's set in a fictitious town in southwest Tasmania, and so I'm doing that, and I write novelettes. So I balance about 4 or 5 projects at once, because
I want to know, do you sleep, Valerie?
Yes, I do. I only need about 6 to 7 hours sleep.
Yeah.
So I do sleep, but I get up at 4 a.m. every morning to write, and then I go to work. And then I come home and I edit, and then I have dinner and spend time with my family. And then I go back in and I do all my plotting and planning and my learning, and all marketing's on the weekend. So I have it all segmented, so it's all happening at a specific time. That's what I'm working on.
Yep.
So
it's great.
Yeah. You must be wearing your underpants on the outside, Valerie, I'm sure.
When I remember to put them on. No, I don't know if that's it. Can we have that in? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
No, I mean, you're a superhero. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
No, I think it's because I'm a teacher. We're so used to, you know what it's like. We're so used to being able to do stuff at certain times. So all I do is just compartmentalize, and I'm very focused. It's like, just do it. Just write. Just write,
Yeah.
Do you, can I say you were saying about Australian writers and putting Australia back on the map. And one thing that I found really bizarre was with getting a UK agent, they ended up making the book that's getting published, The Shallows. They actually then changed that from a UK setting back into an Australian setting, which I was so happy about, because I thought, I thought I'd just have to keep on writing these books that are set in the UK or around that kind of like Europe or whatever. And even The Rip, the second book, it's going to be set on Rottnest Island in Western Australia. And they're happy. They want me to do that, which is so great. I thought they would think, oh, no, not Australia, or no one will know what, Rottnest Island is. But so
that's great. Maybe things are changing a little, because it has been the case that they haven't really wanted Australian set stories, but hopefully that's changing.
I'm wondering if maybe Jane Harper has something to do with it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Apparently Peter Temple in the 70s wanted to write urban Australian crime, and they was telling him no one wants to read about it. And I just think it's shameful, because we all want to read our own stories. We want to see streets we recognise, we want to see scenery we know. And I think overseas want to do that too now, because the drive put us on the map, I think, and others have too, to be fair.
Michael Robotham too. Well, he ended up, he'd written a few books, I believe, before he sort of really hit the big time, and that was when he set a book in the UK. So, but maybe it's coming back around, so that would be wonderful. But
we've just got so much to offer. Like I know we're upside down, and I know we're so far away from everybody, but we just have so many, like yourself, Pamela, and so many wonderful writers in this country, and I just think we should be able to showcase who we are without having to incorporate characters or settings that aren't Australian. Like you can have your token American or French person or whatever, but I feel really strongly about it. I just think and
the more diverse voices we have, the better, that because we are a country of great diversity across all in all different ways. So why not show that? It's brilliant.
The interesting thing, though, is when you want the overseas book deal, the US editors asked you to change a lot of words, and that's where it can get very challenging.
Yes, that's what I'm going to struggle with, because I won't.
It's got to be ranch, not farm.
Yeah, that's right, all those little nuances. But the next thing I wanted to ask you, and I might start with you, Alicia, on this, what are some of the obstacles that you found in terms of, in terms of getting into publishing and to getting your work out there?
Look, it's very difficult to get an agent, especially if you want an Australian agent, because there just don't seem to be many available, and they're all fully booked. Maybe taking the UK path like Holly did is something that's worth thinking about, for that reason. And I just thought, I'll take my own path. I want to control this. I'm a little bit like Valerie, but I want the compromise, because, I don't want all the work that comes with the control either. Look, the barriers for me have really been about COVID, because doing my own publicity, I could have got so much more response. All the libraries were saying, oh, yes, last year, 60 people, no problem. Yeah, we could have had this, we could have had that. This year, nothing. And the festivals were all dead, because it's like they have the commitments from all the authors that they cancelled last year. So they're not even looking at new people. So a newbie like me that could have got, 5 or 6 gigs, I had to send out all my emails again from September, and I started getting inundated from libraries. So the support from those groups is wonderful, but you've got to go for the quality over the quantity, because you just can't spread yourself too thin, and you also have to write somewhere too. So I suppose the barriers for me are the effort that I've had to put in to get this much. And for me, it's all about getting a mainstream publisher for book 2, so that I get that distribution and I get that help next time round, so that I can then do better writing on the 3rd book. So it's a long-term strategy.
Got the plan, worked out, And
not expecting to earn any money either.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the long-term game, isn't it? I think initially there has to be that, just expecting not really to make any money, or, even to lose money in some cases. If you're indie publishing, you've got to put the funds up there to do it. But like you say, Alicia, it's the long term you've got to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Holly, how about you? What have you found to be sort of the main obstacles for you, the difficulties that you faced along the way?
Yeah, I think definitely initially the rejections, and especially with my other previous 2 novels that never went anywhere. I think I probably got 62 rejections on The Hidden, and that was, all the Australian agents and all the, the US and the UK. And I just think, though, that like at first, and even when I was younger, in my 20s, I really took it to heart. And I think a lot of writers that are starting out almost have to make friends with rejections. It can't be seen as an obstacle. To me, they became almost like a challenge. Like every time I would get a rejection, I would say, well, that's it. I'm going to now go submit it to 2 other agents. And it became this kind of game that I was playing with the rejections, where I just always felt good knowing that even if I got one, there's two more other chances out there. And I think, again, you know, going to the UK or the US just opens up that, you know, the amount of agents that are over there compared to what we have here in Australia. So the rejections were initially an obstacle, but not any, like, no, like by the end of it, I loved the rejections. And also I think at first, like, as well, I had such an ego about my writing probably when I was in my 20s, and you'd take everything personal, like all the feedback and the criticism, whereas now I love knowing what's wrong with my book or what's wrong with my writing. And the other obstacle that I think was really challenging for me was when The Hidden didn't get picked up after actually getting Darlie Anderson as my agency and them submitting to, I think it was 26 different top UK, US and Australian publishers. That was like one of those moments where I kind of collapsed in a heap and went, oh my gosh, it's never going to happen. And even when The Shallows went out on submission, I felt that again, like, here we go again, here come the rejections. But I think you just have to keep writing to forget about that and and always have another project on the go. Otherwise you just get stuck, thinking about the rejections. So that's how I overcome it.
Yeah, that's great. It's really good for people to hear this. I think they're fantastic stories. How about you, Valerie? What have you found? Like, I mean, it sounds like you made the decision fairly early that you were going to go down the self-pubbing route. But what have been the obstacles for you?
So I think the obstacles is all the learning. So I compartmentalized the learning. So the first thing I did was I focused on reading and listening to podcasts that focused on the craft of writing. So I did that first. And then once I knew that I definitely wanted to do self-publishing, then I switched while I was still writing. I started did a lot of learning, reading and podcasting on the actual process of self-publishing. And that's when I came up with the idea, I'm going to publish these short stories because there's 10 in the anthology. It's the whole anthology is only about 30,000 words. It's not going to cost me a fortune to get edited, because when I love listening to your podcast and I love listening to AWS's So You Want to Be a Writer. And one thing that kept coming up every time I was listening when I was going to go down the traditional submission route was that the debut writers especially kept saying, oh, they learned so much from their editors. And when the more they worked with the editors, the better they got. And I kept thinking, I was driving around down the car and I'm going, so if I got an editor, you know, it's not till I can get an editor that I'm going to probably improve my writing. But if I don't get an agent or if I don't get a publisher, I'm never going to get the editor. And then my mind just started to tick over and went, well, why can't I just control that? So then part of my business model is to do exactly what the trade publishers do. So I will go and I will get a developmental edit every time. I will never skimp on that. I will then go and do a copy edit, and then I will then do the proofread. I have a professional cover designer. I don't skimp on, I work with a budget, but I don't skimp on cost. I've got a designer in New York who's doing my novel. She actually redid all of Nicholas Sparks' books. Okay. So I pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm getting I'm going to get a good product for that. And so it was that learning that I had to do. And I was doing it all on my own, but I'm a nerd. I mean, I have been studying, I won't even tell you how many degrees I actually have, because I've just finally stopped because I finally got to the end of my well. But I am a nerd. I love learning. I'm a teacher. I love teaching. So for me, it's just making sure that I get as much. And one of the things I love, and I know you're part of this, but the Patreon, you have your Patreon
community.
Yeah, yep. And so I also belong to Joanna Penn's Patreon and Orna Ross's, who's the CEO of Ali, who's the indie association. Yep. And they're great because I can go to Joanna Penn because I'm a patron, and ask her questions whenever I need to. I can email Orna Ross and say, I'm having problems, give me advice. So that's what I'm connecting with people. I'm talking to other writers. And then the other thing that's really the obstacle, and it's part of my personality. So I'm listening to Holly, and my heart just goes with the rejections. I've got these two blokes, and they're horrible. their names are Mr. Inner Critic and Sir Imposter Syndrome. And these two blokes are at me all the time, and they're my obstacles. So a lot of my work as a writer is not just the craft now, but it's my well-being. It's my state of mind, my mindfulness. I'm constantly working on my mindfulness as an author and I'm doing a lot of reading because I think not everyone is going to love your work. Yeah. I know that somebody's going to read my work. They're not going to love my work. I get that. But I know that my work will be the very best work it can be. And then if somebody comes back and goes, I don't like your book because they don't like my type of stories, that's cool. But at least I know in myself that I've given it the best shot and I've given it a quality product, because people give their time to read books.
Absolutely.
So you want to give them that quality. So they're the two obstacles, but they're obstacles that I just push through. And it's not easy. I don't think it's easy. And I think trade publishing and indie publish, it is a slow burn. Yeah. It is a slow burn.
For both, really.
Yeah. And I was listening to this podcast today where they say, you don't want to hit the jackpot first up, because where do you go from there? If it's a slow burn. And I like to,
Well, Valerie, you touched on a couple of things there, which I think sound like they've been a great support for you too, in that, listening to podcasts, reading, talking to, people with more experience than yourself in these areas. Alicia, what have you found that's been really helpful for you in getting to where you are now? What sort of supports have been, have kept you going?
Well, in addition to the Catherine Hayman classes and many other classes I've done, and trying to get as much out of various one-offs or my masters as possible, when I started this publishing route, I thought, I don't know anything about Instagram. I don't know anything about doing media posts, and I don't want to learn about Twitter. So I started listening to podcasts. In fact, I listened to quite a couple of yours, Pamela, and I was busy making notes thinking, oh, this is great. This is the stuff I need to know. And some of it was really step-by-step, about BookBub, something I'd never heard of, and other alternatives to BookBub. And I thought, wow, there's a whole world out there, And so I've made a lot of notes, and listening to other podcasts, listening to other authors' experiences. One thing I did, I looked at other similar authors on Instagram, and I thought, who can I copy? Who do I need to model off? And I looked at Maya Linnell's site.
Oh, Maya's got a great Instagram.
She's very professional, and I was looking at all these hashtags she had, and I learned so much just looking at her hashtags.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, apart from wanting her life, I just thought, okay. And I got my courage up, and my motto is, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I emailed her and sent her a message, and she's a lovely person. She responded and she answered some of my questions and gave me some advice. And you just get a little bit here and a little bit there as you need it. And eventually you've just got to dive in and do it yourself and learn by your mistakes. And, my first interview, I watched it and thought, oh my goodness, I've got to stop doing X, I've got to stop doing Y, I've got to make sure I do this. I forgot to say my website at the end, things like that. And okay, moving right along, I'm a learner, and next time I don't do that. So we're all learning, we all do things wrong. You just have to do less and less things wrong.
Yeah, and you know what? You're always learning. It doesn't matter how many years you've been doing it for, there's still always more to learn about the craft, about the business, all that stuff.
The publishing industry is changing so quickly.
Yeah.
Like when I started being interested in being published 20 or 30 years ago, oh my goodness, I wish I'd done something then. I would have been more than a foot in the door now. And it's such a different thing now,
Definitely. How about you, Holly? What have you found sort of really supportive and helpful in getting you to where you are now?
Well, first of all, I'm really lucky. My partner is a writer. He's not a published author, but he's a much better writer than me. And we met at uni on the same creative writing course. He is just amazing. So we bounce ideas off each other. We talk about plot and inconsistencies, and he just gets it. And he gets the industry and all that kind of stuff. So he's been a great support. And also I've joined a writers group with Louise Allen, who initially edited my work, and also Natasha Lester and Polly Phillips.
Oh, you've got all those fantastic authors over there in Perth.
Yes, I mean, and even just having Natasha, just with all her, she's got a wealth of knowledge, and we meet fortnightly on a Wednesday, and we write together, and then we talk, and then we write and we talk. And I just, every time I leave one of their meetings, I just come out thinking, oh my gosh, Natasha, I didn't know that. What do you mean that like she told us something last week that I'd never even heard of, but she just knows everything. And so, having their support and encouragement and just that motivation has just been great, like priceless, really. And then also, I really feel like the online community has been amazing. Like you, Alicia, I was not on Instagram or Facebook before writing The Hidden. And Louise Allen was the one that kind of said to me, you've got to get on there and you've got to show yourself. And then after, starting my website and interviewing authors for my blog was when I started really getting involved in it. And I find it so much fun now, like Instagram and posting it and just conversing with other authors. And I think you learn a lot about industry trends and the market. And so, online community, writers group, and my partner. I'm really lucky.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that, I actually found all of you on social media. That's how I've connected with you girls. And, I think you all do a brilliant job on I'm thinking more Instagram. That's where I've sort of been more lately than Facebook even. But Holly, we'll go back around starting again with you. How have you found, you've got that great blog where you've invited people on to talk about different writing issues. And, you've obviously found a really positive experience out there with all that sort of thing on social media and Instagram.
The online blog where I'm interviewing authors all about their road to actually securing representation with an agent, not even a publisher, more the agent side, really came about when I was looking for that. There wasn't really that much out there at the time, like back in my uni days, where you could actually just go and find one place where there was just multiple authors talking about how they found their agents and what a cover letter is and how to write a synopsis and how many queries did they have to submit to, how many rejections did they get, all those kind of really personal things that not many authors really talk about. So I started with Louise, and then I started with Polly Phillips, who I also write with on a Wednesday because she did the Curtis Brown course as well. So they were my first two. And then, Louise told me about you, Pamela, and then like Holden Shepherd. And I think it's just the more that you know people, the more like they can see, oh, they've been a part of it, so we'll do it too. And it's led to, coming up to, I'm going to be interviewing some pretty like well-known authors coming up. And it's just so great because then I have their connections and I'm networking with them. And then hopefully in future, they'll end up, either endorsing me or speaking about me. And I just think like it's a real give and take thing in this industry, isn't it? Like really sharing.
Definitely.
I've really, I've loved it. And the blog has been great. Like hopeful writers really, really find it to be like a beneficial forum. So it's good.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put the link to that in the show notes because there are so many great resources on that, like you say, all those articles that I think it's really great for writers to read. So, and Valerie, you were mentioning that you love the marketing side. So are you into the whole, you do great posts on Instagram too. Have you really enjoyed that side of it?
Oh, yeah, I didn't, I had no idea, but before I haven't even got a book out there yet. So I'm really itching to do the marketing. I'm loving the marketing. I think I should have got into marketing instead of being a teacher. Just really enjoy it. And I love social media, except that we didn't actually meet on social media. I did your first course with the Queensland Writers Centre, and I fell in love with your work there, and that's when I stalked you on social media after that. So I love social media, but I think it can be a bit of a rabbit hole too. You've got to be really mindful. And so I play the 80-20 rule where I want to just give. I just want to give and support all my other writers. And when you've all got books out and you've got stuff, I want to share and I want to celebrate in your successes, because I think if we all work together, The publishing industry will only get stronger with really good books out there. But I do find that the one thing for me with marketing is really is about connection. So my whole plan is, when I market, it is to basically just put my book or my books in front of its ideal reader. So the statistics says that there's 1 billion readers in the world. If you get 1% of those billion, you're making a nice little, you're making a nice little profit. But that's where my marketing is. So my marketing is all geared towards trying to get people who are my ideal reader. I would rather have 500 ideal readers on my email list than have 5,000 people who are just signing up just to get something for free. So that's where I want to go. And like even with I know, Holly, you have that blog where you're helping writers. I originally started my blog. If you were to go through my articles, you'll see there's been a bit of a shift, because I started writing articles about my process as a writer and giving some advice. But then I realized that the people who are going to be signing up to my email list are going to be readers. So I've just started to swing my blog around so that it has material that I think my readers would be really interested in. And because I do tend to write romance and I love history, and I also, Natasha Lester, oh my gosh, if I ever was in the same room, she's just like,
Natasha's gorgeous.
I'm just fabulous. One of her biggest fans. But I like Natasha, I love fashion. I love retro fashion. So I try and sort of do that. So try and get those sort of readers in. And everything that I do it's about trying to get the right reader in. My email list is,
with those people.
Like my email list is really slow because I've just passed 100.
It's a very slow process.
I know, it's very slow. And two of those is, one's me and one's my husband. So really, I haven't really got to 100 yet. So if you want to join up and get it to 100, that'll be great. But I really do want people who are interested in like what they think my stories are, and I'll be offering free stuff and just so that's my marketing strategy. I don't want to spend money at this stage because I'm only going to have a couple of books out, and I just feel everything I've been reading about, you've either got money or you've got time, and at the moment time's a bigger commodity for me that I'm going to utilize. And then maybe if I happen to make a bit of money, I can invest in some marketing. But there's so much out there you can do that you don't have to. You can either spend money or you can either spend time, and you just need to make that adjustment. So it's I'm learning. It's not perfect. But
no, you're on the right track. It sounds like you're doing the right thing. And I think like that whole thing with finding your ideal reader and making the right, making connections, because you obviously love it. Like you say, you love writing in Australia about Australia and, connecting with people who are the same. So it sounds like you're definitely on the right track.
Yeah.
How about you, Alicia? Oh, sorry. Huh?
Oh, no, I was just about to say, just closing, I have made so many wonderful friends via, like you two ladies now. I've just connected with you two, but I've also connected with someone called Sandy Barker. I don't know if you know Sandy Barker. She's just got a new book. And we've never met, but I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but I just feel like we're just such good friends, and we've only spoken on social media. So it is such an amazing thing when you use it for good.
It's the beauty of the online world, isn't it? Like it can be a big time suck, and you can use it in a negative way for procrastination and stuff, but you can make so many connections through it. It's wonderful. So Alicia, how do you find the whole social media side and that aspect of authoring?
Well, I started off on Facebook just because that's where I had my friends, but I quickly realised that the Facebook page wasn't really getting the same traction as Instagram. And I've got some friends who are photographers and artists on Instagram, and they said, look, Instagram's a much more supportive artistic community. There's less on the politics and there's more on the creation, and people are very positive. And I have to say that's been my experience. And I really love the feeds I get, because my big ambition is to have more followers than I'm following. But I do enjoy following a lot of authors, and even though I'd like them to be readers following me, I'm learning a lot from the other people that I follow. And it is a feel good to support other people and say, hey, your cover looks brilliant. You know, what you've just posted is really encouraging, or whatever. And you learn by that as well. And it's give and take, as Valerie was saying. So that part of it, I'm really enjoying it. And with Instagram being so visual and beautiful, and you go to some sites and they do amazing things with color, and they link they're very creative, and it's really inspiring. Everyone said to me I should get on Twitter, and I suppose at some point, if I ever get a big publishing deal, they'll tell me I need to, and I just can't have this concept of working with 140 words. I just think
160
or whatever it is, you know. Look, clearly
240 I think it's gone up to.
Has it gone up again?
I think it went up to 240. Yeah,
and I think because I'm so used to hearing terrible stories about Shane Warne and other people on Twitter, it's given me this bad impression of what goes on Twitter. But look, I probably will have to give in eventually, but I do use LinkedIn as well, because having a professional financial background, I've got a lot of connections, and even though they may not be a lot of authors, there are a lot of readers out there who have these jobs, and I'm enjoying actually making this general shift to all my friends on LinkedIn, less accountants and more publishers and editors and writers, and I'm really enjoying that. And I know that when I'm posting on Facebook and Instagram, there's a lot of duplication, and they say you've got to be careful about that because people get bored seeing the same posts. And with Instagram, I'm reasonably certain that there's a lot less overlap. So that's a nice thing. I'm actually targeting a different market, because I think what Valerie was saying is very important, because you can't target everybody, and quality is far better than quantity. You want people that are likely to read your book, or if not read it, recommend it to somebody else, not just there for the freebies or for the pretty pictures. So I think those things are really important to be mindful of, because you do get sucked down the rabbit hole of looking at everything and going, oh, wow, this is great. Oh, it's 6 o'clock and I haven't done anything yet. Or I've spent all afternoon doing 3 posts, and I had to design them, create them, do all the hashtags, get all the links, then put it on my website, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and it's like, where did that afternoon go?
Yeah, absolutely. Valerie, you've got something to add?
Yeah, just have you heard of Canva?
I use Canva, Valerie. That's why I commented today when you put your little award up of things, and I thought, oh, wow, I'm a long way off that.
But you can actually, it is acceptable in Instagram to repurpose your templates. So to help you save time, you get a set of templates and you just repurpose those with different content. So you don't have to read this. Yeah.
I love Canva. I can spend hours on Canva.
Yeah, I get the free deal. I get it for free because I'm a teacher.
Oh, nice.
The premium,
nice. Are you a teacher, Holly?
I am. I'm only teaching 1 day a week, which is just the best. So the rest of the time I'm writing. I feel really, really lucky. But I love what you were saying, Valerie, about switching the content for readers rather than for other writers. And I definitely think once my book comes out, that's what I'll be doing as well. But it's so, I think because I just know how long and hard I worked to try and get there, I just still want to help other hopeful writers.
And like, I'm certainly not published yet, but you know, if anybody, I think people will start to, who get to know me, know that if you ever need to reach out to me and ask me a question because I've been there, done that, or done all the reading, I'm more than happy to help and talk to people. And I've had people come up and ask me, they've brought me coffee because they want me to sit down and they want to pick my brain. And it's not because I have nothing published, but because I'm going through that process. What is it like to work full time and be an author at the same time? How do you manage that? And I'm doing that. And so if I can instill some tools or skills or strategies to help you do that, why not, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing I realised I haven't asked you, because I want to finish off, I'm going to ask you all to share, you know, what would be your at the stage you're at now, what would be your advice or your top tip to give to people? But before we do that, I realised I haven't actually asked you what your latest or your book is about. Like, give us the spiel. So, Holly, can you tell us your book?
Yeah. So The Shallows.
Yeah,
The Shallows that's coming out in next June is a thriller survival story. It's set in Sydney, and then it's set on a private yacht, and then it's set on a on like a luxury yacht, and then it's set on a private Queensland island. It's about a woman whose husband kidnaps her and their children after their neighbours found brutally murdered, and there's this whole link between the families. But it's essentially about people comparing their lives with other people and just becoming obsessed with it and the danger in that. And then The Rip that's out in 2024, that's set on Rottnest Island, and that's about just two families who are there for a holiday, and the little boy, one of the boys, goes missing while they're in the house next door. And where could he go missing on the island when all the kids were with him at the time? But the stories are not like they're commercial, but I do write with more of a literary kind of style, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I think that's probably because of my uni days and like being taught, to write that way. So even though it's commercial, it's my stories are like quite gritty and dark.
Yep.
More kind of like a Sarah Bailey kind of vibe, rather than more of a commercial girly vibe. Yeah. So that's the Shallows.
Exciting. Yeah. They sound like page turners.
Yeah.
Alicia, what about something else? I know, but I want the listeners to know what that's about.
Look, if I was lazy, I'd say it's an Australian Brokeback Mountain. My publisher classified it as romance, and romance apparently in the modern sense has to have an HEA, and that's not how my book resolves. It has a positive resolution. I prefer to call it a love story, but there's no genre called love story.
Right, yeah.
But it's a love story in the vein of Time Traveller's Wife, in the vein of Brokeback Mountain, in the vein of Eric Segal's love story.
Wow.
And it's the journey of a character who's very traumatised from a childhood incident. He's prickly. He doesn't know how to give love. He doesn't know how to be himself. He's one of those rural characters that's always joshing and joking around and being blokey. And he's done that for so long, it's become an armour. Anyway, he meets somebody who opens up his world, and it's very unexpected. And he learns that he is capable of being loved, and he's capable of receiving love and giving love and being worthy. And I think that's a message for everybody. And I've been sort of promoting it as saying, look, we've just come through COVID with all the isolation, disconnection. We've forgotten what it's like to have hugs. We're all going through that disconnected feeling. And in my book, I explore, the journey of coming out of that. And it is an LGBT story, and I'm trying to put rural next to LGBT. And as you can imagine, that's a bit challenging in some rural communities. I've had some libraries say to me, not sure if that's going to work. And the irony is, though, when you look at a lot of gay fiction, it's all read by women mainly. All your readers are your 50 plus women. They buy the books, they read them, and they're able to put themselves into a character's shoes more than a man can, because as you all know, men tend to read male authors, and women are a lot more flexible, I think, in how they think about characters and how they think about story. So many women are reading my book and they're saying it's a powerful journey, and the fact that it's an LGBT vehicle is not an issue for them, which is really inspiring for me.
It's great. Like you say, it's a love story.
That's right. And it's a journey, and we can all experience that journey. So, and it's very strong Australian idiom. I haven't been ashamed to use slang, everything. I've thrown the box and dice. I've given it both barrels and what's in the cupboard, because I just think our stories need to be told in our tone, in our way. And I don't want to be apologising and having this chip on my shoulder saying, oh, I'm so sorry, it's Australian. Because the more of us that do it, we're blazing a trail so that the next person can do more. Like, look at
Yeah.
Jane Harper. She's made that so much more possible for all of us.
Absolutely.
And not to say she was first either. She shouldn't get all the credit.
Yeah.
But, and my next book is, I'm working on a time slip. It's an historical mystery murder of something that's happened back in the 30s during the Second World War, and I'm comparing that. I've got the modern story of 1988, which is sort of my era, and I'm mixing the two in together, and I'm coming to a conclusion. So possibly my ongoing theme is going to be the missing child and cold cases in a way, but definitely Australian idiom. That's definitely what I feel comfortable with, being a rural girl, and I want other people to get it.
Oh, good on you. That's brilliant. I love it. Valerie?
So the anthology is basically 10 stories that have derived out of my Italian culture. So the stories have a very Italian flavour to them. They're based on Italian families. They're not all based on Italian families. There's one, a beautiful one that I based on Greek mythology. It's a modern day story between a Greek girl and a young man she meets at a festival and a raging river. And there's another one, I've got a beautiful story there about two women who are lovers and are trying to have a baby, but Frankie's grandmother is dealing with dementia. So there's that story. And then there's an epistolic, there has to be an epistolic story in there. And that's basically a poignant story there. So they're basically, the tagline is stories of family, loss and love. My editor in Toronto, who did the proofread, Lottie, wrote back on the weekend and said, oh, you do tragedy so well. So there are some sad moments, so there's happy moments. So that's that anthology. So very, very, very much about life. But it does have that, like, I think I've purged all this Italianness out of me, which is part of this, that'll be my style. And then this novel that's about to go to for the developmental editor is a dual timeline novel. It's set in 1989 and 1964. And the reason why it's 1989, it's because I really wanted Olivia's a mother to be an Italian migrant, and it needed to happen in the 60s because that's when most of the Italians came out.
Yeah.
And my auntie was a proxy bride. I don't know if you know what they are, but they're women who were married. The Italian fathers wouldn't let their daughters travel to marry men in Australia because there was no Italian girls in Australia at the time. So she comes out as a pretend proxy bride, but something horrific happens to her that causes her to change her. So she changes her name once, she changes her name again. But Olivia knows nothing about her mum. And then her mum dies when she's young. And Olivia's she's got this scar and she's very shy and she's very closeted. I sort of drew a little bit off her from Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine sort of character, but she doesn't have autism or anything like that, but she's just very shy. There's a love story. But this trunk arrives with all these items, haute couture, Dior shoes, photographs, nude photos, everything, and it belongs to her mother. She knows nothing about it. And so she goes on this quest to discover. I get goosebumps when I think that. And she goes on this quest and she finds who she is because she doesn't know who she is, doesn't know who her father is, doesn't know anything about her mother. She's lived on her own and she goes on this quest. And I've cried 3 or 4 times every time I've done a draft. So I thought that's a good sign, I hope. But it's one of those stories. There's a beautiful ending. It's just this story about belonging, who we are, how we're accepted, how beauty is always about the inside. Her mother is her nickname is Hollywood because she's a cross between Gina Lollobrigida and Bridget Bardot type character, and her beauty has caused her so much grief. So this is like a reverse, like, we think about these beautiful women, but we don't think about what it's like to be that beautiful when you've got a brain, because she's got a brain. And so it's that where her daughter's the opposite because she's got this massive scar. And so it's about who we are and the beauty within us. And that's that story there. So that's that.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. They all sound fantastic. Okay, before we wrap up, what would be one tip that you would give to anybody out there who is sort of maybe, either working on a novel or really thinking, I've got all these novels here and I really want to get published, but I just don't know what to do next? Holly, what would be one piece of advice based on your experience that you would give to people?
Probably meet other writers or join a writers group or a writers course. That would probably be the one if I could pick one. Yeah.
Okay, great. Alicia?
Look, you've got to get out there and see what other people are doing. How did they succeed? Because the publishing industry is changing so quickly. If you follow what someone did 20 years ago, it's not going to be appropriate. You've got to look at the young guns out there, and we're not all young, but you know, the people that are emerging writers who are dealing with the now of publishing, not what was here 5 years, 10 years ago, because publishers expect you to do all the legwork now. You've got to be a commercial proposition. There's no pie in the sky stuff anymore, I don't think. So you've really got to think like a business. You've got to think target markets, and because so many people say, oh, but I want to write what I want to write. And yes, absolutely, you should do that. But you can't be ignoring commercial realities because you're going to be told, oh, we don't want your book because we've just published 5 of them. You know, so you have to have an awareness of what's out there while working in your little bubble, creating your wonderful story. And if you need to modify it a little bit or maybe work on an alternative while the market comes back to you with your story, because once you've got something out, then people want to read more of what you've written. So if you've written something that everyone else has written, you'll be forgiven for that because they want to read you. So I think those commercial realities can't be ignored, and studying what's happening in the market and seeing what other people are doing and listening to podcasts like this, I think are valuable. I learned so much from yours, Pam. And,
that's so
you know,
good.
Michelle Barraclough, she runs some brilliant podcasts as well. Give her a shout out.
Yeah,
and,
fantastic.
The Right Way podcast, Words and Nerds, there's so many on here, and they all have different authors with different ideas. So learn.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you. Valerie, what would be your tip?
I'm going to go the kumbaya way. And I'm going to say, believe in yourself, and whatever you do, just get it out there. Don't be afraid. Make sure that it's the very best work that you can do with the resources and tools you have at hand at the beginning. And I think the one thing that you've got to remember is that don't compare yourself to a published book, because it's gone through a massive amounts of polishing, and to know that that's study those books to know what makes a great book, what makes great characterization, writing, but don't compare yourself to somebody else, but embrace other authors and support them and learn from them, and just believe in yourself, and just don't be scared, because I believe the statistics say that 80% of people want to write a book, 3% do, and only one of them do actually get it published or write a second book. So if you finish one manuscript to the very end, you are doing more than what most people have ever dreamed of, and that should be the pat on the back that you do. And I think just believe in yourself.
That's true, Valerie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was definitely a common theme there with all that advice. So you're definitely all on the right track. So before we go, Valerie, can you tell us where people can find you online?
Yes, because I will get this wrong. So you can actually, if you go to my website on valeriegmiller.com, you can get to most of my social media, but you can find me on Instagram at valerieg.writer, Facebook at valeriegmillerwriter, or Twitter at valeriegmiller.
Okay, great. And as I said, I'll list everybody's contact details on the show notes for the podcast. Whether you're on audio or on the website, they'll all be there as well. Alicia, where can we find you?
My website's aliciathompson.com.au, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Alicia Thompson Author. So fairly consistent, and my books are available for purchase on the website, and I've got links to the ebook that go through to my publisher, 9 Star Press. So, but look, go to bookshops, support the brick and mortar places.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Holly?
You can find my website is hollycraig.com, and that's where you'll find all my blog and interview posts. And then Instagram is, I think it's Holly Craig Writer. It's so funny, I never really look at it, but Holly Craig Writer is my Instagram, and I don't have Facebook, and then Twitter I think is Holly Craig Writer as well, but I barely go on there. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, is there anything any of you want to add before we wrap up?
No, just thanks for having us, Pam.
It's been a trip.
Yeah.
It's been so much fun. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure to get to know you a bit more today. And I'm really looking forward to following your careers and seeing what's coming next for all of you. So congratulations on where you are. And I think it's fantastic that you're just pushing on and getting on and really doing what you want to do. So well done.
And thanks for the opportunity too. Thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.